Hello and welcome to Service is the Best Work of Life. In the following weeks, you are going to share all of our partners that Palma Sia Presbyterian Church works with. You'll have an inside look at how they serve, who they serve, and most importantly, why they serve. Now, we at Witness and Service work with many local, national, and foreign missions. The first thing that we look at is that partner serving someone who is struggling and who is in need of the love of Jesus Christ? The second thing we look at is how best we can share our partner's mission with others so that many can be aware of what they do. And thirdly, we channel awareness of the missions of our partners with our congregation so they can best decide where they wish to spend their time, talent, and treasure. Now, Witness and Service, we meet monthly, often weekly. We provide special offerings. We work with other churches and partnering on specific projects. But most of all, we share our congregation's amazing love and amazing generosity with a world that often needs very desperately the love of Jesus Christ. I hope you are as moved as I was, and I hope that you find that special place to share your time, talent, and treasure. Because after all, service is the best work of life.
Well, I bet one of the first questions you had is, how did you ever come up with 68 hours? Let me back up a little bit to probably 2011 is what I'm guessing. Claire Bloom, who is the founder of the organization and who is still the head of it, was in a book club with people from her small town in New Hampshire. And her grandson's second grade teacher was in the book club. And they were talking about hunger. They must have read something about hunger. And the teacher said, you know, your grandson's class that I teach has a bunch of kids that aren't eating over the weekend. And Claire said, that just can't be. I can't let my grandson go to school with kids who are hungry. So the idea of End 68 Hours of Hunger was born. She chose the number 68 because 68 hours is the time between free lunch on Friday and free breakfast on Monday morning. And so all during that 68 hours, the kids weren't sure where their food was coming from. They are food insecure. That's what the term that's used. So Claire started this organization, and to this day, nobody in the organization gets paid a cent, including Claire, who has been full-time doing this since she retired in 2011 or something like that. And so the idea of doing something, and not just doing a little bit, but providing what they needed to eat over the weekend, which includes 2 breakfasts, 2 lunches, 3 dinners, and snacks. And every kid that's in the program gets that much food over the weekend. And it takes a lot of food. Sybil's going to show you a little bit of what our pantry looks like. We were feeding we started out with 25 students at Grady Elementary in 2014. And now we had, at the end of the school year last year, about 600 students. And the food literally flew off the shelves. We couldn't get ahead of the food because food for 600 in that quantity, for example, every kid gets a can of tuna. So that was 600 cans of tuna out the door every day, every week. And we just couldn't keep up, and we couldn't take on any more kids, and we were in search of another pantry. And so, blessedly, we got a call from your pastors. Many of you probably don't even realize this. In Hillsborough County, 71% of the kids are food insecure. So that means we have a big job. So we're so happy to have you with us.
Meals on Wheels is all about caring for those who are homebound and seniors and disabled people throughout our community. We nourish the body by bringing a good hot meal every day. We enrich the spirit by that meal being delivered by a volunteer who develops a relationship with that recipient. And we strengthen the community by, caring together for those who are in need among us.
We serve about 800 people a day. We rely on 83 volunteers every day. And, we have the most committed and wonderful volunteers in the entire world. 83 people every day are showing up in order to pick up their coolers and their hot bags and go deliver to 10 to 14 people. Wow.
We serve people of all ages. We have people in their 20s to people over the age of 100. They just call in and go through our recipient team. And really the qualifiers for getting on our program is that they have trouble shopping for themselves or cooking for themselves. We always try to err on the side of love, as I think Jesus would do. The biblical call to care and feed those who are hungry and take care of those in need. I mean, this is a ministry.
Once a month, we have a Saturday opportunity where we bring a bag of fresh produce to all of our recipients. It's such a great learning tool. The recipients love to see children so much, and children learn so much about their family's values by delivering. Our team gets in, the kitchen team, not the office team, gets in around 5 o'clock every morning and they begin preparing. And by 9 o'clock, all those 800 meals are ready to go. They've gone through a line and they're sealed in their trays and loaded into coolers and hot bags with the appropriate number to go with each route. And then we have box trucks that go out from our office to different drop-off spots throughout the city. There's 17 of them. Volunteers then will gather at those drop-off spots that are, of course, pre-designated, that are near their delivery route, and they'll go and deliver their route at each home, and then bring the empties back to that drop-off spot where the truck will pick them up the next day, and we'll go on and on and on.
Let me say to the church, just thank you for being such a wonderful, wonderful partner in our mission. You all have provided volunteer support, financial support, active support throughout, and we couldn't accomplish our mission were it not for the generosity of this community and churches and committed followers like you guys. So thank you to the church for what you do to support us.
I think when a community can take care of those who need it the most with such a small gesture, it's an indication of all of us shining a light on where it needs to be.
What was interesting and totally motivating for me to be part of this work was the story of Bethel in and of itself. It's a story of cross-culture encounter. It's a story of Holy Spirit doing what Holy Spirit does work, which is to bring people together in the name of justice. And so Bethel Farm Worker Ministry started in 1976 with a couple of Cumberland Presbyterian ministers, and they saw that migrant farm working families were having a hard time. And so they wanted to open up a space for farm workers to read scripture, to worship together. And that was important because they didn't have a lot of time off. As you might know, when the crops are in season, they can work sun up to sundown for weeks straight. And so they wanted to open an oasis of a respite of sorts for farm working families. And so in that encounter, these ministers, despite the language barrier, got to learn about the plight of migrant families. And so Bethel has been here for over 40 years as a resource center and a worship center. Worship is at the core of what we do. So we do have a church on campus and a full-time minister. And then the mission in and of itself, our focus is to provide the essentials to get these families through the week. We provide the community with financial assistance to avoid evictions, to keep the utilities on, to keep the gas on, to keep the heater on, to keep the telephone on, all the things that we take for granted. We are there to make sure that these families have the resources they need to keep their families safe and healthy. Currently, we serve between 800 and 1,000 families on a weekly basis. That does not include all the other families in crisis that we attend to with clothing and financial assistance. We also have 22 scholars that are part of our Step Up for Success program, which is a mentorship program in which we help students navigate their journey from high school to college or from high school to the workplace. The magic lies in the power of God touching people to support the mission. It lies in the work of our volunteers who are so faithful and show up consistently. And we have volunteers during the week that come in to pack the bags and prepare the grocery bags so that they're ready to put in the cars when distribution happens. When God says that the wealth of the earth belongs to God, that is such a profound truth. I have examples of miracles. We've been praying for food. That's basic, right? So when COVID hit, as you can imagine, there was an increase in demand of families needing food. The food that we get from the government through our partners was the same, and in October it went down. So we went from receiving 13,000 pounds of food a week to 3,000 pounds of food a week. Now we had a 20% increase of families needing that food. So we were praying, we were like, okay, so how can we can't give this little empty bags. It's not gonna, I mean, it's something, but it's not gonna help. And God touched so many people. From Palmacia, we have one of our partners who just was calling orders to Cisco and sending us trucks full of food. We had family who said, what do you need? And no matter what fund we said, they were like, you can count on it. So it was strangers, it was new partners, it was old partners. On a weekly basis, we bring items, clothing, hygiene kits, paper goods, and food to the farm workers at the fields who don't have transportation and not able to come to the mission physically. So we go to them on a weekly basis. Our scope of serving is farm working families and all our neighbors in need, and the need is so great. It transcends race, it transcends at this point class, it transcends all the categories you want to throw into the mix. We're seeing people that have never needed to go to a food pantry, and here you are for me when I need you the most. And so that is the scope of our work, and it's indeed a miracle. Thank you for amplifying our voice.
I began to go to Palmacia Presbyterian, and I met a group of people there, and they began to talk, and they began to come to my apartment and give Bible study in the yard to all the people that were in Tampa Housing Authority. And then they grew from there to the little bus would come pick the kids and us up on Sunday and take us to worship. And then from there, it just grew on and on. People began to want to do more for the Fed ministry. The church began to help pay bills and school supplies, Christmas, educating them with the Lord. It was just a beautiful thing how it grew. And then what happened, the property of Tampa Housing Authority began to, I don't know how to put this, but we had to move. They sold the property and wanted to do more with the property. So everybody got kind of like scattered. But what I praise God for Palmacia, they continued doing for the Fed ministry.
So I became involved, I think because I was a Sunday school teacher, and I started to become familiar with some of the children and became really close with them. And then I became a bus driver for them. So I'd go out and I'd pick the children up. My children, formed relationships and bonds with the children. Sandra and I became very close, and I have just been as blessed as she has. The program's just been amazing to see how, despite these struggles, they remain faithful, they continue to go. And here I'm dragging my kids, to church, and these children are, there early, waiting, excited to go. And
I had just felt a tug at my heart that it would be great to help. And so I think I reached out to John and just said, hey, I heard you guys need drivers, people to pick the kids up, because at that point they had all lost their community and were kind of scattered. And so, you know, what happens is when you start picking them up, you just form these relationships, and you tend to pick up the same kids and slowly get to know them and find out about the needs that they have going on, and you try to help them as best you can. Real blessing in a lot of different ways, and I've been really lucky to be part of it.
Like Donna said, you start interacting with these kids, and it just grabs you, and it's just a real meaningful experience. And so I became one of the bus drivers that drove from the church to North Boulevard and picked up any kid that had a signed release form from their parents and brought them to church. And
one thing for sure I have to say is this: when God puts you to work to do something, it is hard to say goodbye, but sometimes we just have to plant the seed there, and He'll get someone else to help it grow. And I thank Mr. Wells and Donna and Carol, because I kind of felt alone at one time with those kids, but they were a big help to me. Many days I've cried because it seemed like the kids just wasn't getting it. But the Lord showed me, maybe you don't see it now, but they're going to remember, and they got it. Because these kids, even now today, they're still living in fear. But I do know one thing for sure, that Palmersville taught them. They taught them about love, and they taught them about the Lord. And that's what's important.
I'm one of the 2 board members from Palmastilla Presbyterian Church who serve on the board of Faith Cafe. Faith Cafe was started by 5 churches in South Tampa, including Palmastilla Presbyterian, years ago. And the purpose is to feed the hungry, those who cannot afford to go to a restaurant or go to a grocery store and pay for food. There is lunch 6 days a week, and there is dinner in the evening on Sunday. And the people are treated as if they're in a restaurant and as if they are paying customers, and they're treated with respect. They're served their dinner. They don't go through a line or anything. They're welcomed at the front, and we try to make it an enjoyable experience in addition to providing food. On top of the food, there's also an angel's closet that provides gently used clothing to anyone who needs it. And recently we put in some showers, and so they have the opportunity to have a shower, and some of these people have no other way of getting a shower. So that's been a good help for our system. Our church, Palmastilla Presbyterian, manages every 5th Friday meal and every 2nd Sunday evening meal. So we're very active, and it's been my pleasure to be on the board, and Bob Coates is the other member who's on the board at this time. Well, just reach out to the church, call the church office, and they will put you in touch with someone who's on the board, and we will then show you how to sign up for the service at the Faith Cafe. And we have a limit to how many people we need there, so we need to have people sign up through that process. I guarantee anyone who joins us will get more out of it than they put into it.